Greetings and salutations. Second Starlight back with more Raid Shadow Legends, and on screen we have Bushi. So we'll talk about him today. Best known for being fusion food for Cancer the Cyclone. But if you didn't finish your fusion, maybe you fused an extra Bushi for the event, just in case to file him away into your vault. Let's just talk about Bushi a little bit today and see if there's a reason you might want to integrate him into your team. I did, because I'm using him for my fusion. He is, 5 stars, fully ascended. I put some decent gear on him. Took him through some content just to see what he can do, what I can compare him to, and he does. He's not a bad champion. He's just one of those champions that only does one thing. Alright, so let's check that out, okay? So going into Bushi, Rising Storm is his A1. Attacks an enemy, damage inflicted across increases each time the skill is used, stacks up to 4 times. Okay, and you can also book that up to an additional 20% damage, and then it increases every time you use it, stacking up to 4 times. It's not bad. His base damage is just a little bit less than a similar champion in Bloodfeather. If you remember Bloodfeather, she was a fusion food for Cillian, I think. And she has another very similar skill set, although she does bring a bit more utility, but their damage output is kind of similar. Alright, so his A1 is just a straight damage that increases every time he uses it, and we'll see the effects of that a little bit later. Deadly Edge is his A2, attacks an enemy, and the attack is always critical. So that's kind of his shtick with, again, reminiscent of Bloodfeather, where all of her attacks kind of added in increased crit chance, so you can kind of gear her a little bit less on the crit side and maybe more on crit damage side, or ignoring defense, or what have you. You can kind of, manipulate it, so you don't necessarily have to go over 100% crit. And that's what I opted to do on this champion. When we go back and look at the artifacts, we'll see that I geared him a bit less towards crit, because I know that every 3 turns or 4 turns or whatever, he is going to be able to have a critical hit and a big damage hit, because it's an A2, with slightly bigger damage modifier than his A1. So I knew we were going to get something good out there, so I geared him accordingly. Now his passive is very interesting. It's a revive, and it brings it back with 30% hit points and unkillable, which is nice because a lot of times when you revive, you become an immediate target because their hit points are low generally. So this way, yeah, they can target him, but he's unkillable anyway, so it's kind of okay. So he kind of gets a free turn of staying alive, so that he can at least get 1 attack in, usually correspond with that. It's actually a really cool mechanic. And an aura, he has a speed in arena by 20%, which is, fine. You'll probably find better, but it's not a bad one to have for a straight DPS champion. However, again, his lack of utility, kind of makes it, he has to have a very special team composition to make him viable in arena. And that's my main issue with Bushi, is that he's just damage, and that's all he does. So, but I did gear him accordingly, so all offense and then some speed, because he is abysmally slow. This guy is running in wet cement. 90 speed is just awful. So you're gonna do some work to try to get him up to speed, but it's okay. You don't really need to, because you want him to go after your debuffers anyway. So there is that. All right. So again, I have him in crit damage is where I focused on rather than crit rate. So if you look at his total stats, speed only got him up to 127. What are you gonna do? His crit rate is 71, which is fine. That's not a bad crit rate. You definitely want to be doing more damage anyway. It's nice to have that 100% crit rate, but with his A2 always critting, I figured we can let that slide a little bit, and I focus a bit more on stacking some crit damage. So I got that up to 200%, which isn't bad for level 50, and at this particular gear level. All right, so, and then I only got the top 2 tiers of Masteries. So there's a little bit of crit rate and crit damage coming from there. And then if we go back to the total stats, 23,000 hit points, about 2,200 offense, abysmal defense, but it's okay because he's going to res, so I figured that'd be alright. Again, speed low, crit rate, there's crit rate, and then 69 accuracy. He does not need accuracy at all, so I did not need to worry about that in the slightest, which was fun because I'm so used to going to my Masteries and getting that accuracy, and here I could actually go for hit points and then the heal. So that was an unexpected benefit because I'm almost always using accuracy. It's very rarely that I use am able to go to hit points with the champions that I've leveled. It just hasn't worked out that way. I've always tried to gone for utility, and utility usually needs accuracy, and I just didn't have to do that with this guy. It was kind of interesting. All right, so let's take him into Ice Golems, which I love. You know me and my Ice Golems, just because I like the minions. It adds a bit more interesting mechanic to things. So let's go into Media Source. You know what? Before we do that, let's see what his max hit is. Okay, so I have him where we can buff his attack, buff his crit damage, and then decrease damage and weaken my opponents using Gorgorab, Dragomorph, and Lord Wolrim. Alright, so we're going to use this A2 over on, who's that, Penitent? I don't know who that is. Alright, so 72,000 on his A2, and I think if he hits Raider, it's more around 76,000. Probably some just defense differences between those champions. So what we have is between 72 76,000, at 2,200 attack. Not bad for level 50. It's very comparable with Halberdier, a 6-star Halberdier, or a 5-star nicely geared Bloodfeather. They all kind of fall into the same tier of damage. They'll kind of do around the same amount. Bloodfeather, of course, offers a bit more utility, but Bushi offers the res, and he kind of stays in the fight a little bit longer. So that's Bushi's benefit there. And so there's his max hit. Now let's go into Ice Golems proper and just see how he can contribute to the team as a whole. So there's his A1 doing 34,000, 33,000 between there. Alright, and who do I have in the team comp? This is my usual team comp for when I'm showcasing a DPS champion. Gorgrab for speed, buffs, and res. Lord Chamfort for a huge hit point boost, 50%. That's awesome. Sathalia is in here for some cleanse and some heals. And Battle Sage for the occasional res when AI doesn't screw it up. And just cleanses. And she also has a stun set. So her A1 is an AoE. So when her stun lands, it's beneficial. But Bushi's doing work here. Nice 20,000. Between 20,000 and like 30,000 is his A1 at this gear level. Okay, well, that was 15,000, but there's a bit more armor on the minions here. But not a bad compliment to a team. But again, because he brings no utility, you really want all your other bases covered. So you need to have some really good champions on the team with them, so that you can get your buffs, your cleanses, if that's what you want, how you want to do it. Debuffs. You're gonna need to bring champions that cover all those things. And since Bushi only offers damage, you just kind of have to have a strong account and a strong roster of leveled and ascended champions to kind of pull that off. Your Battle Sage just put a res on Bushi, which is kind of a double whammy that we don't need. But again, the AI in this game is not known for being particularly intelligent, right? It's artificial stupidity a lot of times rather than artificial intelligence. But that's just a cross we're just gonna have to bear for a while. All right, that was nice. Thank you, Bushi, for sitting down that heal block minion. That's always a hard one to deal with. But I have 2 cleanses on this team, so it's not as hard as usual. Right, that was a decent hit on the boss. Thank you, Bushi. And I don't remember if he dies in this run. I think that I have enough support where he didn't die, but I have run this, with different team compositions. This is the one that gave me the smoothest run. But doesn't necessarily showcase Bushi's res and then unkillable, unfortunately. But it is a mechanic that functions very, very well. A lot of reses, leave them kind of as sitting ducks. Depending on when the AI, and again, I'm autoing most of the time, when the AI decides to res them, just at the start of the enemy's turn, it can be problematic, to say the least, because they become immediately targeted and they can die right away. So having the res and the unkillable is just really, really, it's kind of the right way to do it. All right, and Sathalia brought him down. That was interesting. Good, thank you. So Bushi comes in with 463 damage, and that's all single target attacks. All right, so a lot of times you'll see AoE champions, have their damage boosted because they're hitting everybody, right? But this is single target damage. You're really taking chunks of hit points away from your opponent, and he's getting a lot of kills too. So if you wanted to take him past the second tier masteries, where you want to stack damage done or speed, depending on how they've how many opponents they've killed, he's a great candidate for that. So if you're looking for someone that is a pure damage dealer, Bushi is actually not bad in that regard, not bad at all. No utility, like I said, but he can bring the pain. He can lay the hammer down. I guess it's a long axe down. He can do that with aplomb. He's actually quite accomplished in this regard. As far as damage goes, you can do a lot worse than Bushi. He's pretty decent. And then if you can make a blender team, I don't really have. I don't have that concocted right now, but there's a bunch of champions that have a similar mechanic to Bushi, and I think putting a whole bunch of auto revivers on one team would be a lot of fun. Okay, so that is Bushi. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know if you use Bushi as a primary DPSer. I'd be interested to see who does, just because he doesn't have a lot of utility. Instead, kind of pushes that into damage. So I'm wondering if anyone capitalizes on that, or if he's mostly a Vault Guardian. Throw me a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want to see more. I appreciate your watching. Take care, have fun, and I will see you next time.